Okay.
We'd probably take it off now.
Okay. 6:30 now.
Let me let Joe.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Go ahead and call our regular February board meeting to order. And the first item on our meeting agenda tonight is a public hearing. So I'll go ahead and accept any comments, oral or written, concerning the 2026 and 2027 type of school calendar. And this is hours versus days.
And that's the point that we usually ask Denise if we have any emails or letters or
Oh,
calls.
thank you for that reminder, because I did absolutely forget that. Nothing
Nothing
from
for
your
me.
end, Denise? Okay. So I'll call the public meeting adjourned. We'll move on to public hearing 2, and I'll officially call that to order. And this is any comments, oral or written, concerning the 2026-27 academic school calendar.
We did post, we were having a public hearing tonight. We don't cancel public hearings.
No, I know. Will you give me,
Oh, you need access.
yeah, I had it earlier today, but
I did too.
it was like I was looking at it at about 5:45. It's not on my computer. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, you're,
This is important.
yeah. Are you able to get it, Brad?
And where are you in?
I'm not right now. I was earlier, but.
I'm
So
good now.
you gotta check your emails, they just, or maybe it'll pop through. Sometimes it's magic.
I see Aaron's in.
I've got it now. Sorry for the delay.
That's okay, so I'll go ahead and repeat that. We're on public hearing number 2. And I called for any comments, oral or written, concerning the 26-27 academic school calendar. And I'm not seeing anyone looking at me here in person. Denise, did you have any comments
No.
submitted?
I did not.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll call the public hearing number 2 adjourned. Next, we'll move on to our regular school board meeting. And I'll officially call that to order. Please note that all board directors are here in person. Thank you all for your time tonight. And I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
Just want to read the mission of this statement first.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's follow it.
I can do that.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, everyone, for keeping me on track tonight. We're doing great.
At Decorah Community School District, we embrace student learning and well-being as our fundamental purpose. We will, in partnership with our students, families, and community, make the world a better place. The mission of the Decorah Community School District is learning, thriving, creating our legacy. The vision of the Decorah Community School District is Decorah Community School District will be a collaborative, innovative, learning-centered organization empowering students to embrace their personal strengths and create their future.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is old business. And we have no old business listed, so we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Hearing the motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to consider approval of the consent items, including minutes from our regular January meeting, bills, and personnel listing. And I want to just name Shanna Putnam-Dibble. I appreciate all your administrative work leading our preschool these last years. Thank you. And I also want to express gratitude to Tim Hayes and Brad Johansson, both from the high school. They've just touched so many students' lives through coaching and growing food and teaching, and their legacies will live on and all the students that they have worked with. And I'm sure there's personal things that we can say about, you know, all school staff, but I just want to share a moment of gratitude for those tonight.
If I can just add one more for Choose Historics, who is going to be very difficult to replace. She has been an amazing technician for the district, so.
I'll make a motion to approve our consent items.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, item 7 is open forum or communication from the public. Seeing anyone in person, that's moving forward, so we'll move on. There's no presentation for tonight,
No presentation for that.
but we do have guests.
And it looks like we could admit Nick into the.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. Okay, so we'll move on to new business. And item A is approval of the guaranteed maximum price contract for the new elementary school with Myron Construction. We have Blake with us tonight from Myron. Thank you so much for being here in person. We also have special guests that are joining virtually, including Nick and Patty from Emergent and Tom from Myron. And I know that I just want to acknowledge that it's only been a week ago that we talked through all of our bid alternates and which ones we wanted to move forward with. And our teams have been working really, really hard on this big, immense project to get all the details to come together. And I just want to share a name that the board did not have time to review this information too much before the meeting. So we're looking forward to having a drive-by tonight on the totals. So Blake, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, you have the document, you wanna pull, or
I
the,
have the document. I'm not running the, cause Sean's not here. I'm not in charge of the.
oh,
bid.
shit, that's
So this is.
starting off with a bang.
Well,
This document?
is there
Is it-
anyone attending, like could Tom
Oh, yeah,
share the document?
Tom, I'm gonna forward this over to you. And if you could just, pull it up.
And
Yeah, can
Denise,
do.
You could give Tom Valhaska Sharon.
What I'm sending you is, the partially executed, exhibit A. And then I can kind of walk through everything.
Sounds like it might have come in. Okay, got it.
Yeah, if you just want to share that, I'll just kind of walk through everything, and if there's any questions, we'll go from there, so.
And Tom,
Alright.
can you hear Blake okay from where he's sitting in the room?
Yep, loud and clear, all good.
Great.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep, just maybe just make it a little bigger or maximize it on your screen.
All right. Here,
We'll
let
just
me,
hit the, yeah,
I take the Zoom meeting down. There we go. Whoops. Okay, is that better?
let's see, yep, or hit the maximize on the top right. That might make it even easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a little more room to expand, oh, maybe not, maybe
I
it's,
think that's on our end.
okay, never mind, formatting thing. All right,
Okay.
So this is AIA document A 133, 2019 Exhibit A. So it's an amendment to the contract that was signed way back when, pretty much saying that we were coming in doing a contract, but today is to actually lock in that or guaranteed maximum price. So the first kind of page here is just legal stuff, or just with owner, who's construction manager. And at the very bottom of this first page is actually where it lists out what we're contracting as the guaranteed maximum price. And that price is $37,924,666. That includes just the construction costs. That includes all the alternates that were approved last week. That does not include anything like that the owner's going to furnish or the design fees and everything like that. This is direct costs with Myron Construction. So Tim, I shot you an email of kind of what we had as that estimate of owner items below us, so that it gives you the overall total. So that's the number we're looking at the end here. And there's more documents we can go through. So if we scroll down, the next sections, it'll say at the top, a little bit up to the top there's says see exhibit 1 cost summary dated 2/04/26. So that's one of the exhibits that gives the full breakdown of how we got to that number, which is attached, and we'll get to that. But so that listing right there is the alternates that were voted and approved last week. So alternates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, and 16. So those were approved, and those are in the number of the guaranteed maximum price. So that is all inclusive in there. It's just a list of what we approved. So then if we go down a little bit further here, it says date of commencement and substantial completion. Actually, maybe scroll up a little bit, Tom. The first one, it should be on the bottom of the last page. Yeah, keep going a little more.
Oh, sorry.
So, nope, you're fine. The date of commencement of work shall be, we can set a date, but we're just saying the date of execution. So once this is, Tim Kippenhahn has already signed it. So tonight it's voted on and we signed it. Today will be the commencement of work. And then as we scroll down now, there's a substantial completion portion of it. So the overall substantial completion, this would include the demo of the existing school, the rest of the utilities, the tennis courts and so forth. That substantial completion is October 5th, 2027. But obviously you need to get into school before that. So there is an additional breakout of portions of work. New Decorah Elementary building substantially complete August 27th. I think we've talked before, Tim, that there are going to be, we'll be turning sections of the building over, different areas of the building throughout before that date, but that is kind of the final date for turning over substantial completion. So
the tennis courts might not be done until October 4th?
Correct.
Yep. And that's kind of always been, that's always been the constraint there.
That's gonna be kind of the last thing, just because I assume, obviously the number one priority is getting us the new elementary, getting ready for the fall of 2027. But whatever happened, whatever the last day of school is in May of 27, then we've got to abate the asbestos. That's gonna take a couple weeks. We've got to tear down old John Klein.
Do more earthwork.
Do more earthwork.
Yeah, so it just kind of compounds from there. And that's just how kind of the schedule worked out. If we can get it done sooner, we will, but that was just kind of per the schedule that's attached as well as one of the exhibits. That's the exact date we had. So we just want to make sure it matched.
And our girls tennis team has accommodations for both seasons.
Yeah, Adam's been working on that, and that obviously it was always going to be 2 seasons, and there was a worry it was going to be 2.5 because the girls unit switched. That was one of the benefits of us not starting this fall, was we got to have fall tennis for the girls. But Adam's had conversations with Luther, and of course Luther's a good partner, and I don't say that just because Aaron's sitting there, they're a good partner, and, you know, we help them out with their gym project and volleyball, and so, we're fortunate that we have the Luther tennis courts in town, obviously.
So yeah, so that's kind of the line out schedule wise. Article 8.3, it just is again some more exhibits. Exhibit 2 is the table of contents. So this is just saying that we're bound to the specifications that were part of the bidding documents. And then the next one down for A3 or A.3.1.3 are the drawings. So it's the drawing index sheet that's in the front of the drawing, so that we're bound to all the drawings that are on there. Then we get to page 4 here. Yep. So these are the allowances that we discussed last week as well. And I can kind of go through each of these. The vinyl wall graphics. I know we combined those, so I just caught this here. I know we may just do like nothing that'll change anything tonight, but do something to update it so it is the window and wall graphics like we talked before. It didn't make it into being changed on here after we combined them, but the 100,000 is for the vinyl wall and window film graphics that we discussed last week, instead of carrying that extra 10,000 for the window graphics. So we can update that accordingly, but won't change any of the numbers. The fire suppression was the budget that we carried. That's an allowance we should be getting numbers in here in the next week and a half. Now the social stairs, we had earmarked about 150 after the discussion we had with Nick from when we pulled that out. So we decided to have that as an allowance.
So, and for the board's reference, that is something that we can talk about together tonight. The social stairs was an element that we had removed from the project as a cost savings, because we were trying to trim millions off of our budget in September. And this is listed in here, but that could be covered as we are under the allowance section. Having an owner contingency allowance would give us financial flexibility to potentially add things back in and still be within the financial scope of the budget.
And I think that was one of the larger items that we didn't want it to fall just directly under the owner contingency, which we'll talk about down here. This is one, it's like we wanted that to be.
So that is named, or has moved
completely out of that piece of
the
it.
owner contingency.
Correct. So that it's earmarked as own. If it's decided not to go with doing anything with the stairs for some reason, we'll just do an internal change where we take that money, that 150, and put it to owner contingency for other added value, or give it back completely.
All these items are part of the guaranteed maximum price at this time.
Yes.
So if we decide not to do any of them, and obviously, like, we're gonna decide to do a temporary fence, but if we would decide maybe not to do the vinyl wall graphic or the social stairs, we're not gonna be billed for it.
Correct. Yeah.
By putting it back in the owner contingencies, you're putting it back in either something that if there's an overage somewhere else, or it just goes back to the.
Yeah, and really, since again, with things going well on bid day that we had, a lot of times we don't have a contingent or a project contingency and owner contingency a lot. So the owner contingency bucket is completely your funds for what do you want to add. If you deduct, so say you decide to remove scope as well. Another way to look at that with the owner contingency, you decide you're not going to put carpet in this room for some reason, whatever. There's going to be a credit back to you, and that'll go to the owner's contingency, because that's a scope of work that you're taking away, same as if you're going to add it. So you kind of have your own funds to add anything in, throughout the project to add value to it. Whereas the kind of the project contingency is more of the unforeseen things or whatever comes, Yeah, more than foreseen, but a lot of that stuff we've been trying to put into scopes, or we you know, I did with the underground doing the piers. But again, project contingency towards the end when risk goes away, also become an owner's contingency as well, as in we can give that back to you saying that we don't have the risk anymore on the project. So we don't need to carry 1.6 million. Now we'll give you 600,000 back and we're gonna carry 1 million. But now your owner contingency is whatever it is at the time. It's really just, if you don't use it, it all goes back to you.
So can we shift owner?
Yeah, Tom,
I did
thanks.
see.
Beautiful digital handwriting. That's amazing.
Thank you, Tom.
Hey, you bet.
Owner procured items into this, or is it essentially the same thing because it comes back to the district anyway?
So, nope, that's a very good point. So yes, you could say, we want to buy the basketball hoops, or not the hoops, the scoreboards through this, instead of it being purchased outside of it. That could be something to say, hey, can you talk to H2I and see what it costs to display the scoreboards? And then we would get a quote, and then we'd use it and we would put it to the owner's contingency, correct? Yeah.
And kind of as a reminder, strategically, we have some items that we did owner procurement, and we felt like we could do those ourselves, and then we don't have to pay the contingency. We can just do them a little cheaper because we're not paying
The markups.
the markups.
Yeah.
For step.
Exactly.
So there probably there might be one or two, but there's a lot of them that I think we're kind of already planning on just because for convenience sake. Now, the one thing that I forget what the term is, and I don't know where to put it in the conversation, but I'll put it here, was somebody or two groups, I don't want to say surprise bid, but did a alternate bid on solar.
Yes.
Did we ask for alternate bids on solar?
So on our bid form, we always have voluntary alternates, so it's not like part of like what we're asking for. And that was where they decided to put it. They're just saying, hey, for this system, so I think one was a lot higher than the other, but I think when we looked at it, it was actually, they weren't apples to apples. One was definitely a higher or percentage system versus the other. And I think that's why we decided we're not gonna entertain it for this, because there's so many different moving parts and we didn't want to delay moving forward. But again, yeah, it's something you could run some of that under this, but I think there's just a lot more conversations that need to be had.
And the purpose of tonight is to set the guaranteed maximum price. So there is still time and room for decision making, but
Correct.
by agreeing on a maximum price allows the work to begin.
Correct. Yeah, so
670, just to continue on with that, just make sure we're clear.
Mhm.
With that $673,000 that we have as owner contingency.
Yep.
If we decide that we want to do change orders and add things like sinks in the PLC rooms, which we've talked about, it would be part of that.
Correct.
money. So that gives us flexibility to be able to add some things back in that maybe we cut, or if we go forward through the project, we go, oh geez, we should have thought of that.
Yeah,
Then we'll have the ability to add that.
correct. Yeah, that is your money completely, where it's like, we want this, we get with Nick and Patty, they put together CPR, what they call it, for drawings for pricing. We send it out to to our contractor, get pricing. We make sure it makes sense, make sure it's, within the line or within the means of everything. And then if you guys approve it, it just comes out of there. It doesn't change the contract. It just comes out of that owner contingency. Yeah. Like I said, that's all part of the number that we're voting on tonight. And really the biggest part is I cannot move forward with contracts until I have this final kind of, I can give them notice to proceeds, but even with that, so tomorrow I hit the ground running, sending out contracts, which proceeds if everything, obviously we vote yes with the number tonight and everything. So yeah, that's really what we're working on tonight. There's definitely going to be changes and things you want to add or unforeseen things, but between the allowances and how we scope things out, we feel confident, you know, we're covered in every direction. I'll just kind of go through some of these other ones. So fencing, we did not get bids on that, so we're just carrying the original budget. So we'll work on getting an actual number there. So that's an allowance. The general requirements were part of our initial contract, so and proposals, so nothing changes with that. Temporary fencing, again, without getting bids, we just got a number for a plug to use that as an allowance. If we don't use all of that, again, the stuff goes back. We give you the quote we get from it, and if it's $20,000 for the temp fence, then the other 15,000 goes somewhere else. You know, we can put it to the contingency, owner contingency, wherever you want to go. Environmental controls, this is part of the original contract, so no surprises with what that was. It's always just been a number that was part of our proposal. Same thing with building permit, same thing, reproduction expenses. And then, yeah, we get to the owner contingency, and this is where we had the discussion of, do we go higher? Do we go lower? Do we carry the 2%? You know, do we break out the stairs, drop it down to 500? I think it was just decided that, let's have it in the contract, have it here. If we don't use it, it goes back. And it just allows you that flexibility to add value to the project without any issues. So that's just the 2% of the overall cost. Same thing with project contingency, that's just a 5% of the overall cost that we're carrying. This is an open book thing. We get something, if they send us something we feel it was a miss or something that's unforeseen, we'll vet it out, send it in. Emergent reviews it as well. Comes to the board, you approve it, it comes out of those funds. So it's not adding to the project, it's just coming out of those funds. And again, as risk goes away, that project contingency is something we can discuss on. Does that, you know, we move that to owner contingency to keep adding value. It's just more of making sure we're covered with any unforeseen items. And then the last two were also part of our original proposal that were asked for, the 150 for the relocation new service and 300,000 for the tariffs. So I think we talked a little bit on the tariffs. That was something that we were asked to have, but once we are fully contracted with all of our subs and suppliers, you know, then that starts to get put in place, that they lock their people in, and there are other people, and that's something that could easily in the next 3-4 months just go away. And again, go to the owner's contingency or just go right back to you. So that was just something that we were asked to carry.
So, Blake, I know that you mentioned that this is construction costs only and does not include design fees.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, when we were thinking about alternate bids,
Yep.
we had like the total pie all together. So do you, and this is the only attachment under this agenda item.
Yep.
I know that we have Nick and Patty on. I'm just wondering, do we have like a total number for the board to also consider before we
Yes.
get too far down with our discussion?
So yep. So that's what Tim and I were trying to put together here, but I do have it. So so it wouldn't be on any of ours, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is design and engineering fees for $2,078,145, and that's just going off our calculations. That number needs to be vetted and confirmed with Nick and Patty, but that should be from the 5.5%. It looks like calculated through with all the alternates. You had $120,000 for abatement and testing. $1,150,000 for owner FF&E. $500,000 for playground equipment and installation. Scoreboards for $43,000 even. Testing and inspections So bring a third party in to do the concrete, steel inspections, make sure everything's good, was 50,000. Video surveillance by owner, was 97,000. And then early childhood phenolic lockers, was 215,000. So in total, with all of those, you would have our GMP plus these owner items. The owner items add up to 4,253,145. So we just need to add that to the bottom line of ours, and I don't
And
have
that included design
correct.
as well.
Yeah, Tom, I just shared that spreadsheet with you and the board. What was the final cost that you had, Blake?
For the owner items,
Just the total for everything. What you sent me said had two things. It said like a budget estimate and then it had a revised alternate. So I assume if I fill up the revised alternate.
so yeah, well, for total, yeah, it would be the left in there, just pull up the calculator real quick.
You combine those two, it's
You got it.
42,177,000 and
811.
800, give or take.
And I have a future procurement that was a little higher, I think.
Okay.
But I'm still you're at 42.1 something, Aaron?
177.
Yeah, so with the future procurement number that Blake just gave me, I'm at 42,363,000. But that's with the procurement number of $4,438,717. So unless, yeah, I just took the numbers that he sent me, so. But maybe then fluctuates by the design fees.
Yeah, that's one thing to lock in with, because it was a certain percentage, but I think there was some, I don't know, Nick, Patty, I don't know if you want to discuss on where if you've kind of solidified what those numbers look like with the final number.
So the final number depends on the GMP, which includes alternates and those types of things. So and it's a percentage. So and some of those things, so like alternates that aren't taken, 80% of that fee is still charged because it was designed and bid. And so that's just the finalization. But since almost all of the alternates were taken, most of that should be in there. As far as I believe that when you last figured our fee up, you added up all those totals that you had for design fees for those alternates.
Yeah. Yeah, so the number
It was 5.5.
the 2,000,000.
It's 5.5 when I go on.
Yeah, 2,078,145 is what I show, and that included all the alternates. Not the deductive one, but it didn't have anything like the 80% of some of the other ones that weren't taken. But I mean, I think we're talking fractions. I mean, we're definitely in the, within $500 type of deal.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna upset that, but I will turn it, I'd like the board or to give space for the board to ask questions. Right now.
So I'm curious, how do the allowances play into? They play into the full cost, however, how do they play into the design fee and engineering fees?
So they're carried above the line, so they're above, their 5.5% would be with those, so they would be calculated in with it. So yeah, that would pull into their final design fees.
So if any of this money that we get back because we don't use it of the owner contingency and final graphic, whatever, then that might change the design fees also, or it's not.
That's a nit question, because their whole thing is they've designed it, so technically they've kind of done their work. Right?
It
Nick?
probably would be, yeah, it probably would be dependent on what, like how it gets reduced. You know, if it's just off of, unused allowances, I can't remember. I think we do final bill off of a lower amount. But if it's reducing, like you take scope out that has already been designed and bid, then we wouldn't reduce our fees for that type, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just gotta think about, they've already done their work.
Yeah.
For instance, they already designed the social stairs.
Correct, yeah, and I think that was the big reason why Nick wanted to push that, because it's like, hey, we've already put the time, effort into it, so we have it, it's just a matter of adding it
Well,
back to the
and
project.
another thing that I heard Nick say in a recent meeting was that the project was designed to add them in at a later date, so it's not like they're gonna go back and redesign.
They still have the plans for when they have it designed.
Right. But I do want to make it clear to the board that, we can decide whether, we can have a conversation and decide whether or not those are included. But that's an example of one thing that I just never dreamed we'd be at this point where we'd be having a conversation about adding things back in rather than
Right.
severely cutting our project.
Some of the discussion on the social stair, it wasn't a discussion of, hey, we want to get our fee on that part. It was we went through a value engineering process, and I went back and looked at that list, and there was about 5 or 6 of them that we revisited that we kind of mentioned as looking at before we took them off of the project. And so those are the ones we reviewed. And I don't want to bring that whole list back up, but the one that I thought was the last one to be cut from the project was the social stair. And so that was one that we discussed. Should we look at getting a price for that, allocating the cost in there for that? All by having it as a separated out amount in the allowances, it really just has us focus in on having that be bid as part of the, delivery of the project. Same with the kind of vinyl wall graphic. There's more work that has to be done there to kind of design that and vet it out. So, but social stairs is designed. That is correct. So were other things that did get taken out of the project that we also didn't we designed but didn't get paid for because it's percentage of construction.
I mean, my question mark on it goes back to, we're now a different board than we were prior, so how deep do we want to review the work we've already done? Because we just added something back in that the prior board said we were taking out. That's my internal question about all of this.
I had that question too, Aaron, because we put in a lot of work and a lot of conversation this last year. And I think that we need to be thoughtful about what we're revisiting, because we can't revisit everything. So Nick, since last Monday, Nick and Patty revisited our value engineering work in meetings, and they had picked out some of the top things that were taken out. So the social stairs is one of the elements that they recommended. Like, this was one, like, I'm not going to repeat everything Nick just said, but that was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, and I don't know if we want to take time right now to talk social stairs, but that's it.
I think that's the one that does pop out at me though, because the discussion from several months ago, the previous board, was about how there is redundancy in having the gym with immense amounts of seating where kids could sit. They could have a assembly, etc. in there versus what function do the social stairs play in the building's role? With 4 to 8-year-olds, I don't know that a social stair plays a lot of role in the functionality of the building. Where maybe it does for, 12 to 18-year-olds, they might want a space where they're sitting down and reading. But
I know too that, I can't remember where it was, but Tori, I remember you saying aloud that that would be an item that you could take back to your staff to ask. And have you had time to do that? Yeah, well, and but that's just something to consider for a future conversation. We could even have a future vote if we wanted to have a vote to make a change. But I think that as a board, that we can talk together. I think tonight, what we need to decide is, are we okay with financially keeping that number in or not?
With it in mind that if we don't use it, we would give that money back to
Yeah,
the.
Correct.
Right.
I think
we wouldn't get the design feedback for it.
I don't think we're gonna get
Yeah,
that.
you wouldn't have got it
That's already
regardless.
put into it.
Well, no, that's not what they just said.
Oh, I'm.
They said that the allowances are built into the full cost, and the full cost is building up times 5.5% equals the design and engineering fee. So if it's not included, then
Okay, I thought if it was on this list, it was already.
Mhm.
I feel
Yeah.
pretty strongly that we should go back and consider it again. I've done research on these stairs, and I think that they are a really useful item in elementary school. When you have a huge gymnasium and you have students in there, the acoustics just are not good for having, maybe half your school or they're not good for keeping kids' attention. I think you have a lot easier time keeping kids' attention on the social stairs. I could see, when you're done eating, go over to the stairs and sit there. I need to have a 5-minute talk with you about recess, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just, it's easier to contain students in a smaller area like that where they feel comfortable and where they're at a lot of the time. That's my take on it, and I'd be really interested to get after you talk to the teachers and staff to come, to do some research and to brainstorm and see what you all think, because you're the ones who are the experts in this. I can gather feedback and get it to you by Friday.
Well, and I think our decision for tonight, whether we're going to be ready to vote on tonight's total. Aaron, what I'm hearing is that you want to be fiscally responsible with public money, as we all do, and
so I know we have owner contingency in here, like we have money we can set aside and use on our own. So that's the question of, well, that number is 673,000. If we end up wanting the social stairs, that's 150. So couldn't we use the existing owner contingency instead of having it as a separate line item?
And that was the discussion that we had. That was one of Nick's ideas too, when we met on it, was breaking this up, because we had that discussion of just any of the VE items would just come out of owner contingency no matter what. But after discussion, it was like, well, do we pull 150 out and drop the owner contingency down to 500,000? Then I think there was just discussion of, well, if we have the means to do it, or to be able to add value and some other things to it, do we keep that a little higher, knowing that if it's not used, it goes back? So those two items I know were kind of the two largest and most discussed items of what number should that be. The last thing I want to do is come back and say, well, we want to add this in and now we're going above and beyond type of things. I think that's what we're looking at, is overall is like, okay, we thought we were gonna be taking stuff away. Now we're looking at adding and let's have something earmarked for those additional added value. So I think that's how I took that discussion. But yeah, this,
And like you said earlier, that the owner contingency and the project contingency are maybe larger numbers, or they're at least healthy numbers.
yeah, I mean, this, like I said, we've always just carried 5% for project contingency. We usually never get to carry like just a straight owner's contingency because of how budgets are. So then the project contingency still is project, not an owner just adding value. That doesn't happen until later on in the project. Sometimes it's too far along. So, you know, the last 5 CMAR jobs I've done, we've always given money back through the contingency, or the owner wanted to just use that instead of paying out of their pocket to do separate things. Like they put it through the project since it was already part of it. It's like, let's just use it because it's easier to put it on the loan instead of it coming out of our pocket today. So there's different ways to look at it that way. Yeah, I guess that's the best way.
And maybe a question, since Nick is on, has Nick already designed the social stairs, and have we already paid for them, or just to clarify on that, they haven't been designed?
The social stairs were a part of the project all the way up until what was that, about 2 months before they went out for bid, Patty? 1 month?
It was right through the design development process. So we had the design intent, we had materials, we had rough material thicknesses picked out. It was just the final construction detailing that was not done, but everything else up until that point had been complete.
So the question that I don't know if I understand that answer. So the question I'm gonna ask is it already covered, or is it mostly covered in the design development, or none of it's been covered in the design development?
So the way the process works, that it is our job as the design team to deliver the project on budget. And so through the process of value engineering, that got taken out. We get paid as a percentage of construction. So the construction total is not known until the bid. And so we only get paid for the percentage of the constructions that's in there. And so in the middle of this process, the estimate grew from an amount to a larger amount. Then the things that we had designed up to that point got removed through the value engineering process. And then that got bid, which came in at this amount, which is significantly lower than where that final estimate was at. So we do not get paid for the design of that, because that would be above and beyond what was in the construction set of documents. But that had been designed to a certain point and then got removed. Does that bring clarity to that?
He's saying that no, they have designed it, yes.
Yeah.
However, no, it is not included
Until we
in
do
the
it.
way this document is prepared currently. Yes, it is included. However, if we were to remove it, then it would not be
Yeah.
included.
I
So,
think, okay. So
It is complicated. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Yes. Then that's the good and bad of percent of construction contracts.
Well,
That's,
yeah, well, I guess another way to look at it is when he's saying, yeah, being paid on what the final is. So this is what the number is, and so they're only getting paid on the final number. So yeah, the 5% is being marked up, that 5.5%. But if you took that completely out, that contract would go down to a certain amount, which in turn would change the billing percentage in the final. Does that make sense? So right now it's here, but if at the end we give back $1 million in to change the contract down, that percentage is different than where we started, so maybe not in the original, I guess, Aaron, that's a better way to say, maybe in the original change order or whatever to give it back, you wouldn't see it there, but it really in total of what we add and deduct and what the final number is for the final billing percentage. That better way of saying it, Nick, does that make sense? Yeah, it's really, you're getting paid on a certain percentage, so really, if they took it out, you may not get paid for that part, but if they add something else in, you know, the value goes up, and, you know, with contingencies and everything.
So the way I'm looking at it from a number of sense is, we've got the vinyl wall graphic, which we discussed last time, and the social stairs. If you combine those together, that's 250,000 plus the percentage on top. We're talking about $260,000 that we have added into the project. So if we were to remove those, we'd be under 42 million for the total cost of the project. And so that's the side where it's, well, do we want to paint the wall instead and have it come out of our owner contingency, or do we want to have this extra 100,000 to put graphic up that we might not actually want? So we're going to pay $5,500 to.
Yeah, I agree with you. And solar isn't on this list as an item. And I know that there's some decisions to make around solar and different options for different ways to complete that project. I know that we identified that as a priority, have sustainable energy as part of this project. But I am hopeful that we can, whichever way we go about that project, I feel better knowing that we have a 2% owner contingency. We have a little bit of financial flexibility within this to pay for solar if we needed to.
Yeah, we also have our own Pebble Save funds, which we could use as well, which we're originally planning on using, so I don't
Which
know if we have to.
We're already using 4 million. Well, I guess we have some of that saved in cash.
Yeah, we have some of them saving cash. It's a much happier conversation
Yeah.
than if the whole project was at 44 or 45 million, and we were like, how much should we borrow? How much should we use in cash? And
I look
that
at,
formula, should we hold off on some of this stuff?
And the other side of that is if we are the ones purchasing and installing, or if that's a separate company and we're just reaping the benefits.
Yeah.
So.
And
Yeah,
part of the
yeah.
discussion that we had in our meeting the other day with Emergent and Myron was that, I mean, with solar, like we decided that maybe we would not include it in this, because then we would save those markup fees, we would save those design fees. So, so we can think of all of the design fees that we're saving from buying our own furniture and our playground equipment and those kind of things, which are a lot easier to purchase on our own when they're not designed. You're just paying for the playground equipment and having it installed. That's different than something that, like social stairs, that needed to be designed and has many different types of materials that will need to be used to make it. So that is something that really makes sense to be part of the project. And
Well, I guess that's the question of if we want them, because it is in addition to what we talked about in our previous meetings surrounding this, so.
I kind of look at this list, some of it as being like a somewhat of a savings account, whereas we're not promising to spend that money, but we're leaving it there for some of that. And if we decide in future notes not to do the social stairs or not to do the wine of all graphics, or we don't use all the project contingencies, I mean, all that money is coming back to us. So I kind of like having the flexibility in there as the project goes forward.
And one of the reasons, the discussions we had was, yeah, with the owner contingency, it's kind of, what is it? Like, you couldn't really, it could be anything you want to add, ceilings, change paint, add a classroom, whatever it is, where breaking the social stairs out, we wanted, I think we finally decided we wanted to just, that was for the social stairs. So like, we can't do playgrounds out of the social stair fund. Like, we have to do an internal change order to take those funds and move them to another allowance saying that it's for the playground, or we bring it to the contingency where then it's more like, okay, it's gonna be more voting wise
Mhm.
from everyone saying, okay, this is what it is, we're taking from owner's contingency. Where this is like, everything that's on here is only for that, and it has to be, so when you do the paperwork.
But if we vote yes on this list today and we decide a month from now that we're not doing the social stairs,
Correct.
that's still an option.
Correct, and we can take that and take it and put it directly, excuse me, into the owner's contingency. And then you can do it with what you may. You know, it's more of just trying to be more, again, open book,
Tracking
saying
it.
that, hey,
Yeah.
this is what we're thinking, it is for these. And if you wanna, you know, do the same thing and add it and say, we wanna have an allowance for scoreboards, we can do that and pull up an owner contingency and just have it. So it's more of a paper trail than anything, you know, like I said, savings account, it's kind of fluid, but we wanna make sure we have, where did it start, how did it get here, why did it get here, and so forth.
What decisions about this allowance in particular will affect our ability to approve the GMP tonight?
So if we would say we don't want the social stairs, I would have to, I've agreed to the document. It wouldn't obviously take that long to do. And I just have to have, Tim Kippenhahn, our president, re-sign, do everything and send it over later. Which is completely fine. You know, I'm gonna still kind of move forward in order to proceed, as long as after we leave, I feel comfortable that, you know, it's nothing gonna be major. So I can get things moving. It just would mean, I'd have to get this document over to whoever to sign it, instead of what we have tonight, being that, we do have a fully signed document. So it may just delay a couple of days, or how long it needs to take when we decide. But again, I don't want to pressure anything into that. So if we're talking 150,000 for this or that, you know, those are just easy changes. It's just a matter of logistically, you know, do we have to come back for a vote?
That's
You
my
know,
question.
that's what I say. If you have to come back for a vote, it could push us off, you know.
I think that our board, the document is their document, but our board would have the ability to approve it as it is tonight. But you could approve it with amendments, and so you could say, we're gonna approve it with moving the social stair and the vinyl graphic either off the project, or, you know, whether it be social stairs and wall graphics, or one or both. You could say, we just want to put that in the owner contingency portion. And so I think you could approve it that way, as long as the document comes through the way our motion approves it, we'd be okay. The last thing we could do is we could tell Blake what we'd like, and he could redo it, and we could have a special board meeting in 24 hours and 1 minute from when we get the document back.
I'll probably be virtual for that one.
I mean, my final thought on the cost side of things is, so our allowances total 4 million and a little bit. So the 5.5% of design and engineering fee, 5.5% is $221,000. So we are paying a design and engineering fee on contingencies, which makes sense. I mean, I understand buying fence, I get all those side of things, but it's the question of, do we want some of these extras included, or would we like to just do it later out of contingency? If we want a vinyl graphic later, we can do it out of our own money instead of earmarking it.
So just to clarify, contingency or owner procured?
Owner contingency.
Well, under the contingency would be still included in the
Yeah.
Correct.
money for like.
But if we were to eliminate it from being a line item, could it happen later? It could.
Right,
It could happen
under-
under our owner contingency
Right,
instead of paying for it as a line item itself.
right.
So you're thinking you would possibly remove 250,000 with the wall graphics and the social stairs. That completely comes out, changes obviously all the percentages, but leave the owner contingency the way it is, and then 250, give or take 250,000 is gonna be part of that 673.
Could be, I mean.
Like I said, yeah, it could be,
Right,
yeah,
yes.
exactly. I mean, I see what you're saying with it. Well, either way, it's just a matter of, that means just a matter of what other things that would want to be added. So then you're instead of starting with 673, Now you're starting at, you know, whatever that would be. 400,000, give or take,
Right.
of
And
other items.
we don't know what we don't know. We do know we've talked about sinks. Talked about solar. Not that solar is gonna come out of this, but it's just one of those things that's out there.
I don't think it's gonna take too long to run across $400,000 of things that you might end up wanting as you go forward, so I would hate to lower that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying to lower our own contingencies.
But essentially, we would be if we ended up doing some of these things out of contingency.
Well, that's the question of
Yeah.
if we want to do them. The prior board said no, and now we're redeciding that decision tonight, and that's.
We're not deciding that decision tonight. We're deciding if it's a possibility going forward. We can still say no to these things as we move on, if I'm understanding correctly.
We can say no, but we will pay the design fee for them.
Mhm.
I will say the design fee, even on 250,000, is $13,000
Mhm.
of a $42 million project.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that that is something we need to make or break on.
I'm saying that it wasn't part of the project a week ago and it is today.
Mhm.
And if we're gonna
The-
operate in a way where the money shifts in and all of a sudden there's, oh, hey, there's another 250,000 and it's just like, oh, well, okay, we did that last time, we'll do it again. We're setting a precedent for things coming in.
But we did put the vinyl wall graphic as an allowance a week ago, correct?
Yes.
So we didn't never
Yeah,
take
that's
that.
that
compl-
one. Never
The-
took.
So that 100,000 is there.
No, I mean, yes, we rejected it and it was said we should add it as an allowance. But if we don't want it, then why would we have it as an allowance? That's my question. And if we don't
Well,
want it
I think,
at all, then why would we pay $5,500 to design it if we don't want it?
I think within the scope of the, in the scope of the design and graphics, we know that we want some design and graphics and color work throughout the building. But we need to have more conversation around that. So I didn't, in the scope of our conversation at the January meeting, I didn't hear any reference to not having it at all, where it was making final decisions on where and to what scope that would be.
Maybe not that big wall, but other smaller pieces.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I agree, Aaron, that the social stair was something that was added back in. And it was identified as an element that was removed in a conversation around financial scarcity. That is now back in the project. I agree with you that yes, we're paying design fee on a maybe that this board hasn't talked about. But I also agree with Lily that that's a very fraction of a percentage that I think that if it is included in the project, that the social stairs is the front door to the school. And I think this school is the front door to the community. And it could have a big social, emotional impact on people, how the school is used and people that in their experience when they walk in that door. So I see this as, I'm interested in having more conversation about it. And I can't predict how the whole board will feel about it. But in the grand scheme of things, and with where our budget is today, and if we're talking about a little bit over 42 million or a little bit under, I feel better going forward knowing that we have cushion and financial flexibility to do the best project we possibly can.
I agree.
So that's just personally where I'm at.
Yep, and I'm laying it out there from a sense of the voters said, here's $38 million to spend and we're spending 42 and change. So if we want to, not saying we can't spend more than that number, but if we want to draw back on that, it gives us flexibility in other ways. Maybe that's buying new buses. Maybe that's fixing a roof here or there instead of putting it here now.
Can I just ask a question about final graphics? Do we, so in our middle school, high school, Carrie Lee, are all the graphics and things we have on walls, are they painted, or are they vinyl, or
I'm guessing.
what do we have in the rest of our schools? Is this something that's, what would be a new concept to Decorah, or is it something that's typical in our schools?
I assume they're all painted. But I'm looking at those administrators now, looking at me.
I don't think there's certainly anything to that scale.
No, I don't think so either.
When we have big Decorah Vikings things in the gymnasium, those are all painted.
We don't only have signage that would indicate state championships and conference championships. There's no graphics. That design incorporated the physical panels with color. When we designed high school, that physical panel, they're also cafeteria, commons area. There was no graphics.
But in the commons area there where you have the local, no, like you have like Satry and
Oh, yeah.
that's all vinyl work there, right?
That's actually a composite
Okay,
material.
that's printed on.
It's very durable. It's
Okay.
put on and embossed.
Okay.
We did not in high school. We didn't. Just did, like I said, just Gemini lettering, gymnasium. Couple of things. What's that? The weight room did when the original design did not, but with the renovation that was paid for, that did include a whole final wall. Photograph.
And how is that hold? I mean, I know that's new, but how is that holding up?
It's not in an area that's high use of as far as I go, but dumbbells or other things along. So. I'm not saying that.
One item I did want to throw out there, so there was part of the reason we did not get the GMP out as early as that we'd like. There was some through the formulas and everything. So what we discussed last Monday with alternates and things to add, the number we were originally kind of aiming towards or thinking it was going to be for GMP wise was going to be 38,005,829. After vetting everything out, it came into the number we're talking about tonight, 37,024. So from last week, even the discussion we had, this is $81,163 less than what we discussed last week. So I mean, just wanted to, so from the number with all in alternates and everything, yeah, there was just something pulling in from one of the alternates that were rejected. That was weird. So we went through all of our counting.
So it's a formula error.
Yeah, something there. So we had everyone redo everything, double check, triple check, and that's what some of the attachments are on here that show that it's perfect. But yeah, it is about an $81,000 difference from last week on the good side of things. So I mean, that doesn't change anything with percentage and stuff. Just wanted to throw that out there. That was part of the reason we had the delay of getting the paperwork over.
All of the ones that were received alternate pricing on would be considered designed. So the vinyl graphic piece would be considered a designed piece as part of the project, similar to the fire suppression or the fencing or any of those things. They were just pulled out as a last minute possibility if we would be able to, if we'd have to VE this down even farther down, then we would take those things out. The only one that didn't make it into the bid would have been the social stairs. That was not a bid piece. So that one was added in there. The vinyl wall graphic number that's shown there is actually lower than the two numbers that we were combining, which was the vinyl wall graphic and the window film. Some of the discussion we had when we were talking about these things is the district's responsibility for bidding things that are over a certain dollar amount. So that's where some of the things like the social stairs, even some of the other items, consideration should be made for competitively bidding things over the threshold and having a designer or architect or whoever is needed to do that process. So that was some of the conversation about this. You will also, when you go through your owner contingency and project contingency, you're going to have some means of approving things as you move forward. So I don't know, you could touch base on how that process is going to work because it's similar to the process you're going through now of, how will you use owner contingency? What will be the process for approving things? Because if they weren't in the original discussion, you will be adding them to the project in theory.
Sounds like a great topic for our March regular meeting. Yeah, thank you. Great idea. But in regards to our agenda item for tonight, what other questions or things do we need to talk through as a board while we have our experts here in the room with us?
One thing here, just so as part of this amendment or exhibit, if just go through, so those are the allowances portion of it. Tom, if you can go down to this is page 4, yeah, that's where Tim signed it, or Tim Kippenhahn. So exhibit 1, yep, exhibit 1. So this is a full breakdown of how we get to that number. So you have to the far kind of left is the totals that total up to like 36,929,961. That was our initial base bid. That would have been without any alternates. And then each of the columns moving to the right are the alternates that were accepted, the values that came in for the bidders, the markups, the percentages. So again, that's where you can kind of look and see what each one has for any of the insurance, the markups that are on it. And then the far column, the far bottom right is the 37,924,666. Nope, lost it. Yeah. So that's where everything on the right column adds up to that. Everything on the bottom row adds up to that. So 100%. That's how, after going through each line by line again to see what's going on. So that's part of it. So that's in that attachment that can be looked at, along with there's a blank page for some reason. I think they scanned it in. And then we talked about this earlier on. There's exhibit 2, which is just all the specifications. You can kind of scroll through those quick, Tom. And then exhibit 3 is the exhibit 3 is all the plans that we bid off of. And then the final exhibit 4, 2 pages down from there, is the construction schedule. That was part of the front end documents and that everyone bid off of. So that's where I pulled the dates for the substantial completions for both the school and overall. But this was in there, so the contractors bid on this too, so they're aware of their durations and everything. So that's the full amendment with everything. So I just want to make sure we kind of talk through that, as that's kind of the backup to where those numbers come from.
And as we saw during, or maybe the board heard about during our 90%, this is so many people and so many experts coming together in a very detailed timeline. I'm really proud of how much work has gone into this project, and I'm just amazed at all the work to come with every detail.
So I guess that's kind of my spiel, long-winded spiel of what this attachment is for the contract.
I don't have any questions about the document as a whole. This is the question before us as a board, what we want to vote on, whether we want to include those allowances or not. Otherwise, I think the document's very straightforward. It's very well assembled. And it's very clear about our timing of when we would be in our next, into the next building and when
Yeah.
the majority of the project would be done.
And my question to the board is, do you have all the information that you need? And have we had the time that we need to talk about it to make a vote tonight?
I think so.
I feel like I'm personally ready to vote.
I'd make a motion that we approve our guaranteed maximum price contract for the new school with Myron Construction as the document states.
Well, second.
Okay, I heard a motion and a second. Any further comments or discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Cheers, everyone. That's a really.
Now my hard work begins. Tom, now you're off the hook. That's my turn.
All right. Sounds good.
Does this mean we're
stop
done
sharing.
dealing with Tom?
No, he'll come around, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'll
be around.
I'll bring the drone around, right?
Yeah. I'll be around for sure. Yeah. Our project in Waverly bids tomorrow too. So it's, another project roughly in the same area. So
Another big day tomorrow.
yeah.
So I know that you love to attend school board meetings and listen,
Oh, yeah.
and we have a big agenda ahead of us.
Yes.
Would you like me to sign that before you leave? Do you have a printed copy?
Yes.
So we can get a printed copy.
Or
Was in your,
Do you want to stop by and pick it up on your way out of town?
I can do that, if
yeah,
that works out.
sounds great.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll just be back down here to
Mhm.
grab that.
Yeah, just stop here in the morning before you leave.
Okay. No, that'd be fantastic.
Okay.
All right.
We still have our professionals on here. I'd like to really thank Nick and Patty for all of the work that you did with putting together this design. We're working closely with our staff again and again and again, and listening to them and taking their ideas into consideration. It's exciting to be at this point where we are ready to move on.
Yep. And say our superintendent's ready. He's got fencing lined up for March 16th, so it's going up. It'll be here before we know it.
It will be.
So,
Ready, set, go.
yep.
Okay, gratitude to
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, let you
Thanks. Brian.
enjoy. Yes.
Thanks.
Good to see everyone.
See you later.
Enjoy the-
Yes.
Okay, we're on new business item B. And which is approval of budget amendment for the 2026-27 school year. And as we begin this conversation, I want to express my gratitude to my admin team. This, I admire all the work, heart, and hours and hours and hours, day, night, and weekends that you put into our district and our kids. And I know that it's not easy to be in your role in public schools. We've faced a lot of challenges in the last many years, and as we face declining enrollment and a number of factors, we're faced with making budget cuts. And I appreciate the time that you put in with Dr. Cronin to talk about cuts that would be doable for you, but to still keep what's best for our kids. Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you. There's a document attached with a narrative about the recommendation for tonight. I'll turn it over to you to talk through.
Absolutely. So just a quick summary. Decorah, as other districts in the state, are kind of facing a combination of declining enrollment, low state supplemental aid, and then increasing operational costs. We have to look at budget adjustments. I didn't call them budget reductions, and I'll explain a little bit of that shortly. But the big thing is enrollment for us. Taking out the Mabel Canton, without the Mabel Canton students, because those funds were flow through, easy for me to say. Over the last 3 years, we've lost almost 95 students. And so if you just did the quick math on that and said every student is funded per pupil at $7,900, $8,000, that's over $750,000 in revenue that we haven't received.
And I want to include that another change in that time period was the Montessori school became accredited, which used to run through our homeschool assistance program.
A lot of those students were dual enrolled in our homeschool program, and they're per state law not allowed to be in two accredited schools at the same time. So those families opted to continue with Northeast Montessori, and once they became accredited, of course, then they qualify for the educational savings account, which lets the people also refer to as vouchers. If you remember back to our meeting in January, Travis Squires was working through our 5-year model, and there were some really good positive things about our budget. Our property valuations went up, so our tax rate is going to be easier to accomplish with borrowing the new geo debt for the school. And actually, he was very optimistic as long as we cut $650,000 out of our budget. Unfortunately, that's easier said than done. I did, if you remember, I did kind of press Travis, could we break that into 2 pieces, 2 tranches? And he said, yeah, want to do at least $400,000 next year, and then $250,000 for the year after that. So when we talk about adjusting our budget, the big way we think about it is reduce spending on something. So cutting budget. But you can also reduce your budget by generating revenue, which is a little harder to do, but enrollment would be one of those things. And then the last one is if you shift an expense from a general fund to a non-general fund, one of our targeted funds. And probably the biggest example that we've done of that was when we participated in the natural gas. I can't think what the official title is, the 2080 we purchase our natural gas on contract, and that's allowed to be paid out of management fund. And so we moved that off of general fund. Plus, we get the insurance we get the natural gas costs at the beginning of the year, and if there's a fluctuation, because we've already contracted, we've got one price. So, all that being said, met with the admin team, we talked through different options, and so presented tonight is some easier ideas, but then they kind of progressively work through and get a little bit more difficult. The first one, which has already been accomplished, is just we were with some retirements and the central office and hiring folks back and reclassifying positions. We had that calculated as a savings of $72,000. Well, those $72,765. So that was kind of already done. It's always nice to start the process of getting to 650 or 400,000 and have something to start with. So that was, and the admin team liked having something to start with. The second one is one of those shift, a reduction by shifting expense. And so we can hire privatized tech folks, and we've been in conversations with the AEA, so they're willing to sell us a purchase service that would be tech support in our buildings. We currently have 2 staff that are doing those. As was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Teresa has resigned at the end of the year, so we need to look at filling that position. But both of those positions could be AEA employees. We would purchase that service. Because it's a purchase service, then we would be allowed to use PEPAL funds to pay for it.
So they would be AEA employees, and they would be on their insurance, et cetera.
Their insurance and their calendar, and I mean, there's some little things. It's not something that Keystone AEA has done much of. They've started getting into it. It was very, we were doing it in Central City when I left there. So it's nice. The part where they're still AEA employees rather than like we could hire Bob's Computer Service or Carol Sand Computing or whatever company we wanted. But because they're an AEA, then they participate in IFRS. So if those employees, if IFRS is important to those employees, they can still have IFRS. So privatizing it, and so that was an estimate of $155,000 in savings. Then hats off to Joan and Christy. I don't know who got the idea or where it came from, but another shifting of cost was to use every teacher salary has like a basic amount that comes from the general fund, and then there's a small portion that comes from the teacher salary supplement fund. And so we can shift the teacher salary supplement portion of the homeschool staff, homeschool assistant program staff, and we can just shift that back to the homeschool assistant program because we have a budget for that. That was a savings of, you think about $15,000. Then the last three kind of all interact and interplay with each other. And they all involve a different calendar for next year. So to start with, we can also shift the teacher salary supplement portion for all the special education teachers to the special education fund. That will save the teacher salary supplement at least $150,000. It could be a larger number or general fund portion. That will increase our special ed deficit, which is something that we look at every year when we get the CAR report, because that allows us to get spending authority, but it costs us a little bit on our tax rate. So we're kind of committing to that, or proposing to commit to that, and then raising a little bit, but we'd also like to find ways to reduce our overall special ed deficit. So that's when we started looking at the calendar and saying, what if we traded the 36 late starts for 6 full days of professional development? There would be some direct savings attributed to not running buses and compensation for bus drivers of about $30,000, but there's a bigger picture savings of reducing special ed deficit or special ed costs, which that 150 that we're increasing the special ed deficit, then it gets trimmed down a little bit by reducing those costs. So that's kind of how those two play together. And at the same time, with having 6 full days of professional development and looking at how we do professional development different and missing out on the weekly meetings that staff would have. We also looked at the teacher quality fund, which is what had funded the teacher PD day last year, but it also funds teachers to go to conferences. And so an idea on that was, well, we could reduce spending in there. Some of those teacher PD needs could be met on the 6 full days now, but knowing that there's no perfect world here, and so reducing that expenditure by $50,000. Those were the last 3 that kind of went together, because if you had full days all of a sudden, then you have an opportunity for teacher quality. We spent a lot of time talking about the calendar change. We understand we're not proposing this lightly. We also understand that we're not proposing it to bounce back and forth, like, oh, next year let's go back to the 1 hour late starts. We need some consistency.
So Tim, just to be clear, I want to clarify. It's proposed to do away with the weekly Wednesday 1 hour late starts.
Yeah,
And instead have 6 days of no school with professional development.
Yeah.
It was the schedule change for, I mean, that's going to affect schools and families, so.
No school for students, but the teachers were
Correct.
work.
it'd be a work day for students. Basically, what we're saying is, from a mathematical standpoint, 1 hour late start, if you added up 6 of those, you basically could just have, because we're having an hours calendar, which we did approve, or we'll at a public hearing, but we'll approve shortly. Because you have an hours calendar, you can say, oh yeah, we'll take 1 hour off of the late starts. After 6 weeks, you've essentially saved up enough for 1 day of no school at all. And the hour exchange is pretty nominal. Yeah.
I will say, with this proposed list, while I don't take this lightly, I'm eternally grateful that we're not talking about eliminating teaching positions, increasing class sizes. I recognize that this affects professional development. This is a reduction in funding for professional development for teachers and a restructuring of time. But again, our mission and mission statements is about what's, what is best for our kids. And I think that this recommendation achieves that.
Gaining teachers is a big deal.
Mhm.
There's a way to keep teachers in our buildings, keep our class sizes small. Might not be the favorite way to do it, but
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of options. I look at our admin team and I only have glowing things to say. The reports we're getting from
The testing.
the test scores, the outcomes for our students, the experiential things we hear from the high schoolers. Our students are getting the best of the best. They have phenomenal people that they get to go to every day. So that's a testament to you and your staffs. And from my perspective, we want to keep that as whole as possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Aaron said. Getting the emails this past month with our testing scores comparing to what we've been and the trending up and everything. And I think a lot of that can equate to having the lower class sizes. And so I agree, these are some big changes, but we're not changing that part of it.
We're cutting a program. I think that one of the things that Decorah is able to offer is just an incredibly robust level of programming, which our kids are taking advantage of. I don't know what the data is this year of 98 or 99% of students in the middle school that are in at least one activity, or that, in the high school, it's the same. Everyone is involved in something, and that's good for academic and social emotional health. And we need to be mindful of what we can do, but I think that this allows us to keep those opportunities here for students, at least for this year.
Tim, can you talk a little bit about the professional development? The state requires a certain number of hours, a certain number of days for professional development for teachers, plus teachers have a contract that is more days than what the days are that what the hours add up to be for contact time with students. So just so that maybe the public understands why we would need to add 6 more days of
Yeah, I
service.
haven't looked at the law recently, but there is a law about a number of teacher collaborative hours that are required. I know we meet those for a PLC, so we'll shift those to these full days. And then I think the second part of your question is students, we're contracted to provide education to students in the number of hours that they come to school, but all other staff have a contract based on number of days worked. And so, I think that's your question is, why do we have to add these days back? Well, the staff are required by contract to work. PG staff is 191 days. Students don't go 191 days. They never have. It used to be 180, but we're just saying we can do these hours differently. And again, somebody said, other districts have already done this a little bit with their calendar. I'm pretty confident in the education that was just stated, the education that children are getting here and the quality staff we have teaching that shifting around hours. There'll be some things we like about it, and there'll be some things that we don't like about it, and there'll be some growing pains, but I don't anticipate it impacting our student achievement or any one iota. So.
And the administrative team, and you have talked about spreading those out so that teachers can plan units together, et cetera. Yeah, we've talked about a calendar and where we'd like the day at. We've already got a little feedback as this came out, but we have a district leadership team on the Tuesday after President's Day. And so we're going to share a note out tonight or first thing in the morning and share out a calendar.
ask staff to give some input there. Obviously, we'd like it to be consistent for families, so if we say the first Wednesday of the month or whatever it is, we'd like to try to stick to that as if at all possible. So that just lets for, when you start putting it on the calendar, then there's just some discussions with the admin team about, okay, let's take a look at this, and would it make sense to do it this way? It's like if you already had a day off on Friday, or you have it on Wednesday and a Friday off, and so we're gonna try to apply some just logicalness to it as well. But we don't have that calendar to roll out, because among other things, we're in this weird place where if the board accepts these recommendations from the admin team, then one of the agenda items where we approve the calendar for next year, I'm gonna say, well, let's table it, because now we have to build a new calendar. But I also couldn't put a brand new calendar out there until you guys had accepted this, so, yeah, so it's a choose your own adventure type of board meeting. And if you pass this, I think you can go to page 72 and do that adventure.
Tim, on the teacher quality activities that were coming down, is there any money remaining in that pot for external?
There's gonna be a little left, and so we met with the TQ committee, to just talk about, because that's a committee that does meet and approves their own budget. And just kind of said we would leave some money in there, for kind of emergencies or district identified needs, like, oh, we really need to have the English department go to this conference, or the math department go to that conference. And I guess we're looking at it as, this is a 1-year deal. We're not saying that we're not ever gonna have, borrow from this fund in the future, but we need to get our budget right sized, and this is a suggestion now. Probably before I forget to mention, this is kind of the first wave of recommendations. Obviously, our goal was to get over the number of 400,000, which we have, if they're all accepted. We will retain the right to still consider other things for the coming school year. There's the possibility of attrition that might result in some reductions. If staff resign, what we really wanted to avoid was any kind of RIF situation, reduction in force. And of course, as mentioned, cutting programs or sections. So we'll look for attrition where it presents itself, and then other opportunities. So I don't have it all fleshed out, but Chris in transportation is looking at bus routes, and if there's a way to reduce bus routes, then you don't save the fuel, because you assume that you're picking up all the same children, but you're probably saving on, what you're paying a bus driver, because you need fewer bus drivers. And then he's got I think he spent a lot of time worried about it, so.
I appreciate all of his work.
There's some opportunities there.
And we're also looking at, the energy usage in the buildings. I know Curtis has been working on that. That might end up becoming some saving, energy savings in the future also.
Absolutely. And what one of the things we presented numbers that I think we feel are accurate or conservative. And we always present hard numbers. There might be some soft, like for example, Chris says when he's like, okay, this bus route, I think you can save $5,000 in fuel costs. Well, that's a hard number. That's what we would pay for fuel. But we also have a number, like each mile we travel is $4.69. He's like, well, if I multiply by that, then the savings 25,000. Well, we can't do that, because that's wear and tear on a vehicle, and you're not gonna maybe actualize fewer oil changes or fewer tire purchases or whatever. So we are trying to present just hard savings costs, while we recognize that there might be some soft savings. We don't want to do that, because we don't want to come and say, oh, we're cutting $800,000, and then the reality is we only cut half of that. So we're trying to make sure that we're not understating. We're trying to understate our adjustments.
And it helped to break this reduction over 2 years rather than all at once.
Thank you. Sorry, you can go ahead, Carol.
I just wanted to come back to the teacher quality, because I did hear from a staff person today asking about that. At this point, we're looking at that for 1 year at a time.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah. So that might be if our enrollment increases.
Enrollment increases, SSA is larger than 1.75, 2%. We find other ways, like, Chris magically figures out 5 bus routes we don't need or something, yeah. No, it's not, obviously, I did make the statement about the calendar. We know that the calendar needs to be consistent. But the TQ opportunities, that's kind of one that, we put that on there because we wanted to stay away from classrooms. But we also recognize the need for that, and it doesn't mean that it'll be a forever thing.
I just want to make a note, just more for the record, related to the technology department ones, to emphasize that that's not, $155,000 in savings is not because we're reducing the tech support that we're getting, or we are overpaying people or underpaying the AEA. It's largely because of that shifting and it's savings from the general fund. And I just think that that seems like a huge number, and it's like, whoa, what were they paying people for? Again, it's just because of how it's shifting, the complexity of what can pay for what. But our students and staff are still going to get the appropriate tech support that.
And we're still gonna pay for tech support, just not out of the general.
Right.
Karen?
I was gonna go back to a point Tim just made, which is across the state, almost every school district is seeing a decline in enrollment. It's not quite true everywhere, but almost. I think the biggest problem or issue is 2% SSA on a year-over-year basis. If you think about what the cost of inflation is, it's more than 2% annually. So if you're only giving us 2%, you're saying we gotta slice something all the time. So in looking at these cuts, I mean, I think you prioritized our staff to the best possible extent possible. What more could I ask for as a board member? So thank you.
It will be interesting to hear what kind of feedback we get from parents about when the page late hours.
This is going to be a big impact on families, for better or worse for some, and I think that it's important that we recognize that it was a big deal when the district went to 1 hour late starts, and it's going to be a big deal again if we move away from it. And it will ease some people's burdens and create hardships for other people.
So this is a voting item.
I'll move that we approve the budget's adjustments as proposed for the 26-27 school year.
I'll second.
Hearing a motion in a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item C, approval of the 2026-27 type of school calendar, hours versus days.
We have a recommendation to continue with having an hours calendar, which is extremely important now that we just approved a different calendar for next year.
So I'll move that we approve the 26-27 type of school calendar using hours versus days.
I'll second.
Hearing a motion in a second, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And of course, we've already mentioned this, but item D, we need to table.
So we're skipping ahead 5 pages of our novel.
Moving on to item E, approval of a 5-year cylinder lease and gas purchase agreement with Mississippi Welders.
And this is recommended by the teacher. I think the 5-year lease was a way to save money for us, and so we're recommending it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the 5-year cylinder lease with Mississippi Welders.
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion?
My question is just on where this is being utilized in the district.
Industrial tech classrooms.
Very good.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is approval of the district K-8 standards-based education handbook. And I believe this is the first time that the board has reviewed a K-8 handbook. And Dana, thank you so much for sharing. I thought that this was a nice, it was just great to read through. I think I remember as a parent of middle school age children, just being curious about the grading system and all of that. So I think that this does a beautiful job of explaining that and outlining priorities and process for our youngest learners, or the younger half of our learners. Does anyone have questions?
We did first develop this in 2020 and there was a committee, so there's some other people in the room. Thanks for being part of that too. But it was, this time was really just cleaning it up a little bit, not huge changes.
I think your email summarizing the changes was very helpful and
Yeah.
much
Yes.
appreciated.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve the increased education handbook.
I'll second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is approval of the interagency agreement for the 2025-26 contract for provision for special education instructional programs. And this is tuition out contracts for Ames and Southland.
I guess my question is, the Ames one a virtual academy or?
No, I think it's, no, it is not. And just understand that that will happen occasionally, where we'll have students that get placed into a residential setting, and then we have to contract with the school district for instruction.
So it's a residential situation, not driving into Ames.
Yes, I believe so.
I think that's a valid
Yeah,
question to
yeah.
ask, yeah. I mean,
I'll move that we approve the interagency agreements as listed.
I'll second.
hearing a motion in a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, approve professional service agreement for roof and building envelope consulting services with Shive Hattery. And this concerns Carrie Lee and the high school.
So continuing with the roof improvements for the district, as I kind of mentioned in my board meeting, pre-board meetings, we're not to a comfortable place where we can, we're still kind of doing a triage with what roof is the worst. And so on the maps, the recommendation was roof 17, 31, 32, 33 sections at the high school, and then sections C and D at Carrie Lee. Kind of as a reminder, we replaced the entire roof at the middle school a couple of summers ago. Obviously, John Klein, we're just crossing our fingers and hoping that it gets through. And so really the only roof projects right now are going to be the high school and Carrie Lee. I guess the same for West Side, I guess, crossing our fingers on that one. But this is with Shive Hattery. That's who we've worked the last couple times. They in Iowa, when a capital improvement project is over $139,000, you have to hire an engineer or an architect to do the specs for it, because it's considered a large capital improvement. We think that this project will be over that, at least at the high school, and knowing that we like the work Shive Hattery's done, and he's very thorough at getting our roofs done. We want to continue working with Mike. So this will be a pretty quick process to get this bid. I know we're kind of getting a little bit late in the season, so we'll want to get this, if we approve it tonight, we'll want to get it to Mike. And so we might ask for a special board meeting to approve some stuff. So Curtis, I'm gonna pause. I know we talked just this morning. Did you connect with Mike at all on a timeline yet? Okay.
No.
So our hope would be we get this going and have some roof work done this summer.
More roofs.
More roofs.
And you can see on these attachments that the roofs are in tiny little pieces. There's lots of sections to think about. And I'm just so thankful that we're taking good care of our buildings, and we're building new, but we need to maintain our existing facilities as well.
So right now, we're just approving an agreement.
Yeah, you're just approving an agreement to work with Shive, and they outline the roofs that they're gonna do. Mike said if he's up here doing this agreement, his next thing would be able to give us like a condition of the roof. You know, so like at the high school, we did section 11 last summer. So we assume that like if he wrote up section 11, that's good for 20 years, 30 years. But what's section 23 like, 24, 9, 7, and so what'd be nice is if to help us with our 5-year PEPAL and save is just we knew the life expectancy of all our roofs and sections. And yeah, this is usually how you do it, is you have your sections and you'd have them on a rotation plan, kind of like you have your buses, and you just know, okay, when we're all set, once the roof gets done, you've got to
Start back over.
Yeah, you start back over. So
I'll make a motion that we approve a professional service agreement with Shive Hattery.
Motion a second, any further discussion?
I just wanted to reiterate, this will, eventually, when we do get these bids, this will come out of PEPAL funds.
yeah.
And that's something that we will be having an election on to coming up sometime soon.
Yeah, March 3rd, we have a PEPAL election, and we've got some social media information coming out shortly on that, just kind of get that out there. But yeah, this is exactly, PEPAL would be a great use, the PEPAL funds. Again, we're not raising a tax, we're just extending it for 10 more years. PEPAL helps us do buses and roofs and capital projects.
So these kind of projects we are able to do because we have these capital funds, which can only be used for these capital projects.
Exactly. So, and we will have the capital projects, which we used to call summer projects, but we'll have the capital projects at next board meeting, so you can kind of see what we would like to accomplish this summer. And then we always have a little part in there, like we don't have enough budget for it this year, but what's coming summer. And of course, we've got some of the commitments to the new elementary in there as well.
So you might have just answered my question, which is that this would be this summer, the actual.
Yeah, the hope is that we can still get this accomplished this summer.
Other questions about the roof?
I just think what it's doing is setting us up for long-term success, because we'll know, well, hypothetically, unless, something drastic happens, like, yep, we're targeting these 2 roofs, these 3 sections of roof next year, and these the next year, and these the next year. So we'll be able to budget effectively out into the future, which I think is great. And the only other odd thought I will throw out there is that the Google Earth photo for the high school is clearly while they are doing the work on section 11, which is why it is white and not black like the rest of the roof.
Okay. Any other comments before we move to a vote? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're on item I. First and second reading of board policy 102E1, which is annual notice of non-discrimination, and E2, annual continuous notice of non-discrimination.
So these 2 board policies have a, as you can kind of see, the little light orange, just added in the Civil Rights Office in Denver as a contact. So that information was not on our website. And when I checked, it hadn't been updated in the board policy. Sometime between now and last July, that got updated. So we need to approve this. So we've already added it to our website because it wasn't cited as a board policy on the website. And the desk caught it, the audit has already been approved. So I will say it's a minor change, and I'm gonna recommend we do the rare thing where we have the first reading and the second reading at the same meeting, which is a practice that's allowed. And if we're not comfortable doing that, and we want to have a second meeting, then I would just say, let's have a special one and get it done before March 1st, so that desk audit is all okay.
I'll make a motion that we combine the first and second readings of these board policies.
Second. Okay, read a motion in a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. An approval of public hearing for school calendar for 26-27.
And so with the changing in the calendar, we'd like to have some time to publicly post a calendar and not just, and we need to approve a calendar. So even though we did this last month, we're gonna have another public hearing next month at the start of the meeting. Meetings are at 5:30 in March. So we would be 5:30 here. We'll have the public hearing for the calendar.
And I'd like to urge people to give us their input on
Mhm.
this calendar once it's put out. With it.
Our emails are all on the website,
Yes.
aren't they? They are.
I move to approve the public hearing for school calendar 2026-2027.
I'll second.
Okay, and a motion and a second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent's report.
Just a couple of notes. We're working on a gift policy that we'll probably have on the March board agenda. Different options for solar, whether we do a PPE agreement or, as we learned, there's a possibility that we could just have to buy our own solar and then not go through a PPE agreement. So I'm gonna meet with Perry tomorrow. We've been talking to other folks about that, so we're kind of running out of time on if we do a PPE, getting the tax incentives, so we'll probably see some of the March meeting about that as well. We announced busing for 4-year-old preschool at West Side, and I was waiting for some kind of reaction, Jenna, so we gotta.
Very excited.
Yeah, okay. I'll link to the elementary website. And so the one that I was here, so there's a link to the elementary project. Please don't use that. I asked Myron what the cost of the project would have been if we hadn't had, they bid the project into little pieces. Instead of building the whole project, they might have done the cement work and the prefab walls and the roof. And so I said, well, what if we had to have the low bids? So they added up all the secondary bids, and it was $46,216,000. So having a competitive process saved us about $5 million.
I think one thing, I think we have to be very appreciative of our local services contractors that knowingly gave us a very competitive bid to help us out, knowing they're part of our community. I think that greatly affected this project.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Brad. That struck me as I haven't had a time to sit down, but I know a lot of the names that were called for the low bids were local folks and absolutely helped us very thankful for them. So,
And I think Blake even said he followed up with some of them to make sure that they were great bids, and I think it was just very beneficial to our project.
And we're happy that they're gonna be.
Oh, and it's great to have local people doing it.
I've seen that through and through, which is
Mhm.
just great, all the way from the bank that's giving us the loan and giving us the best
Yeah.
rate possible, all the way through
Right.
these.
Mhm.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I think we need to be
Very-
very appreciative of that.
It has a big impact on what we're able to do financially as a district.
and it's a nice thing for the people who live in our community that work for those companies that they can say, I work. I'm not sure how many trucks Grandpa Harold drove, but according to him, he provided all the cement for the CFL when he was driving for Carlson. Yeah, whether he drove one truck or 45, I don't know, but he was proud of that. And then I went to Luther, so that was a neat thing for him. So anyway, thanks for highlighting that, Brad. That really, our local folks helped us out, and it'd be great to have that in the community and the banks, and good stuff.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to our financial report. And
Hi, good evening.
Joan with us and Christy. Thank you both.
Yeah. Okay.
Any highlights that you want to call attention to, Joan?
Not so much account. I think our accounts, if you look at the cash balances, they're where we anticipated. The changes from year to year, some of it has to do with timing of receipts. If you notice any, large changes, our save balances are down, and our PEPAL continues to increase, which gives us more flexibility. So we're continuing that. The debt service is quite a bit more than last year because we did that pre-levy, so we'll have the funding for our first bond payment. And I just wanted to thank you for approving those budget adjustments. I know it's not easy, and I think that we've done a very thoughtful and considerate process to make these changes. I don't know if Christy, if you want to add anything. She and Denise are doing a great job, and Jess and Abby of really keeping things going well. So I really appreciate all of their help too.
Had a lot of changes in our central admin.
Yes, they're handling it like experts, though. They're doing great.
Great. Christy, do you have anything else that you'd like to add in? Okay, well, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
And on the budget adjustments, I will say, we were able to, Christy and I Zoomed with Joan and just walked through, because I've been working with the admin team, but I also wanted to make sure that Joan and Christy understood and knew what we were doing and how it was reduction. So appreciative of that, because it's always nice to have another set of eyes look at stuff.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
These were some really creative ideas, and when you look at what other districts are doing, we're closing buildings and cutting staff. I mean, for us to be able to come up with the creative ideas that we did this year, cross our fingers for an increase in enrollment next year and 3% from the
yeah, that would be wonderful. There are, before I forget, KCRG has done a couple stories on school finance and budget. One was SSA keeping up to inflation, which I thought was really good. Now, everybody can have their own numbers, but I'll share those with the board. You guys might want to be aware of that kind of stuff. So,
but the thinking outside the box is really
yeah, there were some ideas I didn't know we had coming. So.
Say a warm welcome to Violet Schmelzer from your superintendent report, though.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Enrollment in.
Yeah. All right. Welcome, Violet.
Okay. Well, I think that we've reached the end of our agenda. Speak now, or I'm going to adjourn. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'll call the meeting adjourned. Good night.
Good night.